Welcome to Regent Park TV. I'm Kedar, and today we're covering the recent Moss Park Town Hall, where the community came together to address urgent neighborhood concerns. Held on October the 8th at the Central Neighborhood House. The event, hosted by Councillor Chris Moise, drew a full crowd of residents, housing advocates, and police from the 51 Division. A central topic was the proposed condo development at 214-230 Sherbourne. With the city's council decisions imminent, residents voiced concerns about the project's potential impact on affordable housing and the broader housing crisis. Stay tuned for the full coverage of this important town hall and hear the community's voices firsthand.
We had some Wi-Fi problems, but I think we're now back online. So we'll start. Thank you again for coming in this evening. It's lovely to see some familiar faces and some new faces. My name is Councillor Chris Moise, the Council of Toronto Centre, Ward 13. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are gathered today on sacred land. Territories of the Mississauga of Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and the Chippewa peoples. Toronto today is home to many diverse people, including Africans who were trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade and their descendants. This land is subject to the dish with one spoon Wilcom Belt Covenant, which compels everyone to stewardship of the land. We must recognize that we all need to eat and live off the abundance of the land equally. And we recognize the same reality for our future generations. Without intentionality and care, we cannot honor these responsibilities and pay respects to the Indigenous elders and ancestors to show that we understand that we are all treaty people. So here's the agenda for the evening. 4 bullet points here. Housekeeping, we have some snacks in the back, and some coffee and water. The washrooms are down the hall here to your immediate left, if you need to use them. Just wanted to remind everyone, this is a safe and inclusive space. Everyone must be treated with respect and dignity. Discrimination or harassment in any form, whether verbal or physical, will not be tolerated. We believe in fostering an atmosphere that encourages open dialogue and productive conversation. Comments should be constructive, respectful, and related to the discussion at hand. Everyone has the right to privacy. Those who do not wish to be photographed, videotaped, or recorded should request a sticker from the registration table to my left. Attendees taking photos, videos, or recordings must, I repeat, must obtain the consent of the subjects of the photos, videos, or recordings. By following this code of conduct, we can have a productive meeting. So the first item on the agenda for me is the downtown action plan reset. As you know, we have a pilot project that started from 2019. 5 years to 2025. And there are many hiccups in the initial action plan. You know, 2019 came around, COVID started. So a lot of city staff were reassigned to the shelter hotels. And so this also impacted the downtown action plan pilot project. And last year we had 4 public consultations, 3 of them were in person. One of them was actually in this very room, I believe. And I attended each and every one of them just to hear firsthand the feedback of the community. We also had a virtual meeting as well, and all meetings were well attended. We heard that people were not happy with the action plan in its current form. We heard from businesses and small businesses saying that they needed financial support for all the graffiti and the windows that they were experiencing. And also, too, people wanted more regular cleaning of our laneways and alleyways and so forth. And I also met with our own team at the Downtown Action Plan and gave some feedback myself. And looking at the report, it was quite comprehensive, and I have to say that they actually listened. And I was very pleased with that. There is a new leadership table in the reset, which encompasses many different city department heads, MLS, parks, transportation, and so forth are all at the safety network table in regards to the Downtown Action Plan. So the Downtown Action Plan reset, some of the things I want to outline with the next slide is that you'll see that the old action plan versus the new action plan. There's some similarities, yes. I have to say the old action plan, not all of these were honored, I'm gonna say. The parks maintenance was about 2 or 3 times per week. The hotspots was, touch and go. But talking to staff, we actually have this new action plan, but what's different with this one is the Clean Streets team response. And the Clean Streets team response is actually a third-party organization paid for by the city to ensure that if there's any issues, that people will be able to get an immediate response from them. So again, if you look at the parks maintenance, the hotspots, 2 of the hotspots in the world right now is Allen Gardens and Barbara Hall Park, so they're cleaned twice a day. All of the parks once a day. And we also purchased biohazard waste cleaning that actually has now been purchased as of last month. So it's to pick up any human excrement of feces. And we're actually not waiting until the reset for this to take place. We're actually using it now. I also want to note that the reset will take place as of April 1st, because that's when the new budget begins for 2025. And also too, the budget for the Downtown Action Plan has been greatly increased. And that's by me pushing city staff to make sure this service is well funded. I've also brought 311 into the conversation because again, I want people to have one access point when it comes to the Downtown Action Plan. You should be calling, 1-800 number or this organization or this department. Call 311 and they will deal with it directly. We also have a new system at 311. It's a comprehensive system that actually captures all of those things. And the Downtown Action Plan is part of that reset. So please do that. I encourage you to do that. And again, I'm going to keep a very close eye on the Downtown Action Plan because I really want this to work. I think people of Toronto Centre deserve clean streets. And I don't want to see any needles in the street. I don't want to see any feces or garbage and all those other things. As we also know, the side note from me, is that we know what the Ford government has announced recently when it comes to safe consumption sites and harm reduction services. Even though for me, as Chair of Public Health, I've been very vocal about those services, they're well needed, especially here in Toronto Centre. I feel that if we lose safe consumption sites and harm reduction services, that we will see more needles in our laneways and alleyways and our school grounds. And we don't want that. Some of you may know that my background is addictions and mental health. I spent 22 years working in the local hospital down the street. And so I know firsthand that harm reduction services do save lives. And I've had meetings with my counterparts elsewhere who feels the same way. The next item I want to talk about is the new encampment protocol. So as you know, when I first took office 2 years ago, we have the largest encampment in the city, Allen Gardens. There are 89 encampments in Allen Gardens. And I've worked with our staff from the very beginning. John's right in front of me. Honestly, frontline work is hard work. We just assume that things happen. We snap our fingers and when things happen. But frontline work are people on the ground doing the heavy lifting for us each and every day. And at every opportunity that I get, I just want to thank our frontline staff for the work that they do. Thank you. So from the very beginning, we have used the Duffy Grove model when it comes to dealing with encampments. And even though we didn't necessarily have to, that's the model that worked. And there was great success in it. And so we replicated that in our gardens. But also the new encampment protocol came into effect, passed through council in July of this year. And it's taken into account the 22 recommendations from the Ombudsman, and also to the lower court's ruling in Kitchen Waterloo. And we have 6 points here. First, I'm just going to read it. Engage the individual, offer them support and pathway to housing, and provide shelter for housing, clear any occupied structures, install vital signage, and monitor for any new encampments. And again, the piece that's not mentioned here is that our staff has and do build trust with those who are in encampments, right? I mean, and this may take weeks, it may take months, but once they get to trust and to know our staff, then listen and they start to extend the services. I believe that if you just ask people to move out of a park, they're just going to move into in front of an empty storefront or a laneway. It doesn't really solve the problem. To solve this issue is housing. And not only housing, but supportive housing with wraparound services. We know that it works. And the mayor and council is working hard to build a lot of housing. As you know, for example, the Bond Place Hotel has been converted. You know what, that's in my notes, it's the dip later on. So I won't get there yet. Just remember that. But we, with intention, are housing people from encampments as much as we can. The other piece I want to mention, though, is that there has been a bottleneck in the system, in that we get 500 refugees coming to Toronto every day. And a lot of them are in the shelter system. And so, as a result of that bottleneck, you're seeing less spaces for those in encampments, and it's just a ripple effect. So the mayor and council have been talking to our counterparts, provincially and federally, to try to get as much support as we can to get more spaces, not only here in Toronto, but across Ontario and beyond. And I'm sure, like you, I've been to the ward, we see this work that is in Moss Park, in Trinity Square, by the center and elsewhere. So again, those are conversations we're having all the time. And I know, again, our staff is doing the best they can with what they have. The next item is developments. So we have about 70 developments in the ward, which is quite significant. And I do meet with developers when there's an application. And also to city planning staff is always with me. And those who come to my office, they're also registered as lobbyists. So I'm very transparent as to who I meet with and what we discuss. So as a councillor, I cannot direct our planning staff as to what to recommend. The Planning Act is a provincial act, and it's independent of council. But what I do talk to developers about is securing CPCs, community benefits, which is 4%. As we know, the province changed the law, I think last year or 2 years ago. And before councils were able to negotiate up to 7, 8, 12% of Section 37. Now, we are restricted only at 4% of the total value of the property itself. So what I talk to the developers about is for what we do this 4%. So often we talk about childcare in the building, talk about securing space, for example, and putting money perhaps towards parks. So those are the things that in my previous as council that I talk about with developers. It's also important to note that with the new bill, the Ontario bill, I think Bill 39, the city now have 90 days. 90 days. The city now has 90 days to process an application, right? So this is why we actually created a new deputy city manager of the city to help, and they restructured the planning department to help deal with this new legislation. A lot of people don't think that's, so I take the time to mention it. And also I try to have as many in-person meetings as possible when it comes to consulting with the community about what happens in a different area. It's also important to note that the city has sent to the province on many occasions to implement inclusionary zoning, which has been sitting on the Premier's desk since the Wynne government. And inclusionary zoning really means rent control, right? That's a provincial responsibility, and it's up to them to decide. Affordable housing. So it's up to the province to do that. The next slide talks about rental demolition. So there's a lot of rental properties in Toronto Centre. And there's a lot of evictions in this ward, more than I care to talk about. But again, there's been a lot of changes to provincial law, right? And this makes it easier for landlords to demolish, I'm going to say. And so when I came into office, 25 St. Mary's was on my desk. And that was an issue I had to deal with right away. And so I worked with city planning or legal department to try to get as much out of the rent gap as possible for residents of 25 St. Mary's. And so this was actually the benchmark for the city after when I came into office, because it was quite comprehensive. And this example is a 1-bedroom, and this is the rent gap that was received, a total of 44,700. And early this year, I passed another motion through council, seconded by, I worked with Josh Macklin to actually change this a little bit and brought CNC numbers into this, as well as 2015 PBR. And so it was able to increase the amount to a significant more than previously, based on these numbers. So the same number here for 1 bedroom today is $50,748,000, and that's just for 1 bedroom. It goes up more significantly depending on how many bedrooms and the size of the unit. And that's a one lump payment to the person who's vacating the building. And of course, we have contingencies in place if people need support, because that's a lot of money for some people. We provide support where needed to help them manage the funds over 3 to 4 years until they come back into the new building. So as a city, that's the best that we can do. Like, I cannot control demolition. And at any point in time, the province is going to say, you know what, council? This is too generous, and they may change it. But as for right now, that's what it is, and I hope it stays that way. Okay, the next item is community safety. We do have a new superintendent, 51 division, starting on July 2nd, I believe. His name is Ish Musa. He wasn't able to join us today, but he was at the last meeting. Sergeant Henry Dick is with us. Thank you, Henry, for being here. One of the things we started was the community outreach response and engagement team, which we called CORE. The police chief called me, and he said, we can offer some help here in the downtown core, in the Dundas, young Dundas area. And it's really a nurse from public health, a practitioner nurse from public health at Toronto Police going proactively out into the area, the immediate area, and see if they can help people who are in crisis. Rather than being reactive, they are actually being proactive. And County Fair, we actually offer free office space at their mall, beside Joey's there at Dundas, to TPA, Toronto Public Health, and Toronto Police. So the program is hopefully a good one, and I hope we have more like it. We've also doubled the funding for the community crisis response in downtown core, really to help those who are in crisis, mental health crisis. And I've worked with Gerstein when I was a counselor at the hospital. I've actually visited this site many times when I was at St. Mike's, just to see the services that they provide. Also, I reached out to them many times in my role as a counselor at the hospital, asking for their support. So I know that they're credible and competent organization, and I'm happy that they are our partners in the city when it comes to community crisis response right here in the downtown core. One of the conversations that ongoing conversations that have been happening as recently as yesterday, I met with the mayor in her office, as well as Councilor Villa and a few other city managers, and talking about the health hub. Again, the positive announcement the province made recently was actually the health hub. There are many health hubs already in the city. For example, Regent Park Health Center down the street actually provide health hubs. And most recently, London, Ontario had a health hub that started about 3 or 4 months ago and been very successful. So, Toronto Public Health, or head office at 277 Victoria, is actually moving next year. And so, we want to create a new health hub somewhere in this ward. And we'll provide food care, women's health, dental services, and a low barrier respite for those who are experiencing addictions and mental health. And so we have not yet announced our community partners that we work with us, but I can say to you that we have their support and their support with us, and we'll announce hopefully in the next month or two where this new health hub is and who our partners are. So that's the good news story. The next slide. So again, as you know, we had a tragedy over the summer in the corner of Sackville and King, where a mother and her child was killed by a driver. And so I proactively went out, I think that week, as council of that week, and used Section 37 funds to install the street light there rather than a crosswalk. And additionally, we're installing 6 new lights from crosswalk to street lights, traffic lights in 2025. And we have an additional 16 or so. Oh, how many are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. Yeah, 10. I can't even count it. 10 that we will install in the future. So we are actively doing that, converting crosswalks to signal to improve pedestrian safety. So that's pretty exciting. Bike share expansion. So as you probably have noticed, we have a lot more bike share in the downtown core across the city. When I first got elected, I was actually sitting on Toronto Parking Authority who actually manages the bike share. And we aggressively started to build more bike share stations across the city. Initially it was just in the downtown core. And so we expanded throughout. And we had a partnership with Tangerine, as you probably saw on the bike shares. So in 2023, we had 70 bike new stations and 161 docks. In 2024, we had 3 new stations and 69 docks. And in total, we do have 95 stations and 2,094 docks. So that's really amazing, and I'm happy that we continues to grow and continue to grow the network. I talked about that already. Here we go. So neighborhood projects. So there's some exciting things that are happening in our neighborhood. Allenburg Palm House restoration and revitalization. I was able to actually visit the Palm House about maybe a month or 2 ago. I had to wear my hard hat to enter the space, but it's done a total, revitalization of the space. The new glass actually came from Dubai. It took some time to get here, but quite funny got here. And so we're hoping that it opens soon. It should open by the end of the year. I know speaking to the people in the Palm House, they may want to have some weddings there and some other things as well. So it's really an amazing space, and when it does open, I encourage you to go and take a look at it. We also have Allenburg's master plan that's been endorsed by the growing of the city. We do have a booklet here. Where's the booklet? So this is the master plan. So if you want to take a look at it, it is here for Graham City. And also too, we have a new teaching garden in Allenburg's. It's open this past summer. I had the privilege of reading some books to some kids a month or so ago, which I enjoyed, and they enjoyed too. We also have the Indigenous Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship opening at Jarvis and Dundas. It's an Indigenous operator that's been selected and will be announced later this year, opening first quarter 2025. I'm being told the right time. Like I mentioned, Bond Place Hotel conversion to affordable and supportive housing is planned to be run by Vincent Hall. Phase 1 has been completed in March of 2024. We have 92 supported housing units there now, and they're occupied. Phase 2 will be completed in the first quarter of 2025, with 188 next supported affordable housing units. So total units of 280 units in the Bond Place Hotel, which I think is extraordinary. We also have a community engagement team at Dundas and Sherbourne. My office advocated for this team, and all Saints and Margaret's are part of that. We have regular patrols in the Dundas and to Seaton area, Shooter to Sherbourne, Windermere, and Callahan and Lens. And if you call the numbers here, 647-327-3118, or you could email them and they will meet with you. We also advocate for CLC, the Community Liaison Committee, and so again, Marcus and Street Health is part of that conversation, and the community as well. At 233 Carlton, the Women's Resource Center drop-in, that will be completed in the first quarter of 2025, and that is run by Fred Victor. And And again, we've created a CLC at my request. And the CLC will actually be able to view the space, have a tour of the space in spring of 2025. And lastly, the George Street revitalization, which we've been talking about forever. I was told that construction would take about 5 years, but the completion is estimated to be between 2029 and 2030. The report with detailed timelines is coming back to the SEC committee this December, so keep an eye for that. We're also launching our participatory budgeting in Cluster 3 this year. We have 46 total projects. Of the 46, 38 were deemed feasible, and 15 of the 38 feasible projects will be funded outside of this process, meaning we found alternative funding for those projects. So you can visit chrismoise.ca/pb to cast your votes. The voting opens on October 1st and closes October 31st. So voting is on now. I've been working really hard to communicate as much as we can about everything that's going on in the ward. We have to go up the resource community guide, which I think I have more here. This is the guide that we put together. And we refresh that guide every year. You can also go to the online resources, chrismoise.ca/resources, and neighborhood-specific pages will be relevant in there as well. And we also launched a text message service for you to subscribe to, for example, closures and construction notices. But more recently, though, during the rainstorm, we actually used it at 77 Howard, because during that time, the entire building lost power, including stairways, there's no elevators, and we had the systems of security to go into each of the floors and give flyers to all the units, and people were able to actually text a message, subscribe to the text message, and we were able to communicate them that way. So it was very successful. So I encourage you to sign up, because I see the value in it. I also encourage people to get involved. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved. Earlier this year, I launched Toronto Centre Talks. It was online. It was quite comprehensive. We went to breakout rooms, there's some feedback. And so it was really a good experience. So I encourage you to get involved in that. I've also started a youth network, launching a new youth network this fall to give youth ages 14 to 24 who live or go to school in the Toronto Centre an opportunity to learn about municipal governance, discuss policy ideas, and earn volunteer hours. And then when I was in school myself, I didn't have such opportunity, and I see the value in it now. That's why I was a Black Youth Fellow, and Muslim Youth Fellow, Asian Youth Fellow in my office whenever the opportunity presents itself. And Toronto Centre Projects, a website our office maintains to keep residents informed about capital projects happening in their neighborhood and access the ward. And every year I conduct a survey to gather feedback and measure the impact of the downtown East Action Plan. The survey only takes 5 minutes, so I encourage each and every one of you to actually go online and provide your feedback. And save the date, we are organizing the Toronto Centre Holiday Party, where we will recognize this year's Community Builders Award, and it will be held on December 11th at the St. Lawrence Hall from 6 to 9 p.m. And there is a dinner, and tickets are limited. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that anyone has. So I believe, sorry, before we continue, who's assisting me at work?
Stan.
Who?
Stan.
Stanley? Okay. So Stanley will hand out cards along with Ed to indicate you want to speak. If you are online and wish to speak, you can type in the chat or go to chrismoise.ca backstage and join the party backstage.
Thanks.
We will take 2 speakers in person and then 1 online. Again, I want to thank those that are online. Thank you for joining us today. We tried to have a hybrid meeting at the this time around. It's been very successful so far in our first 2 meetings, and we're happy that you are here with us today online in our third session.
Good evening. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mike Burr, my partner. Thank you. So we've lived in the neighborhood for many years, so certainly not naive to its challenges or that we all face, nor naive enough to think that there's an equitable distribution of resources and services across the city, or an equitable application of bylaws and policies and procedures and laws across the city. So what I'd like to ask is a situation or a story that I heard of earlier this summer that has left me kind of so perplexed that I'm hoping you can help me understand. So in another area of the city, a group of the neighborhood dogs were banned from the dog park because their owners hired private dog walking service. So I guess neighborhood residents said there's a lot of parking, there's more people, ban them. And so the city banned them. And so I kind of thought, wow, that's really something. They were using it for the purpose it's constructed. As far as I've been able to discover, digging into it a little bit, the dogs and walkers did not leave animal or human feces throughout the park or throughout the neighborhood. They did not leave needles or broken glass or drug paraphernalia throughout the park or in the neighborhood. They did not verbally or physically assault the neighbors. They were simply there using the dog park during the daytime. And then, speaking for ourselves, I know for the last 5 years, we've literally begged for support from the city, from the police, from the province, from the federal government, so that we could safely access the 2 parks we live close to, so that we could safely enjoy the dog park, the playground, the conservatory which you speak of, the ball diamonds, the tennis courts, or the community center or arena. However, there has not been any improvement so that we can safely access the park. So I'm just wondering, how is it that in some areas, when it appears from what I've been able to learn, nothing illegal has happened, but something is being used for the purpose which it's intended, yet the city will act based on concerns raised by the neighborhood residents. In other areas of the city, such as Town South, our parks are being used for illegal purposes constantly, which are not only impacting our ability to use the parks, but are impacting our ability in our own homes and in our own neighborhood. And yet there doesn't seem to be any trust or any support that you're speaking of for others for the entirety of the neighborhood. So I'm hoping you can help me understand.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying that I'm a dog lover myself. I've had 2 Jack Russells who live to be 7.5 years old. Some of you also know that I actually own a pet food store at the St. Lawrence Park. You're talking about dogs, right?
Let's talk about dogs.
Okay, I thought you were talking about dogs, my apologies.
I'm talking.
About the city reaction to.
Yeah, I'm talking about safety in the fact that in one area of the city, a city resource, a dog park, is being used as it's intended, and yet the city will act to ban those residents' dogs. We want to access our park for reasons it's intended. We have begged for assistance to do so, and yet we have absolutely no response from it seems any level of government.
So, thank you for clarifying. I my apologies. So as I mentioned in my remarks, there are limits that we can do when it comes to removing people from our parks. There's a Kitchener lower court ruling that states that we cannot remove people from a park unless we have somewhere to move them to. We also have the Ombudsman report that has 22 points that says that we cannot remove people unless we have a safe place to move them to. And this is why we have done our best to create more spaces to move people indoors. And I've been very focused the last 2 years, trying to actually move people from our parks and into spaces. Also, when we actually clear a park, we actually put up a sign stating no in campus. Because I was told by our legal team, again, what I can do or what I'm able to do is two different things. So our city legal staff has said to us, you cannot preemptively go put a no in campus sign in the park with there's no in campus, right? But once an encampment is cleared from a park, we can put up a no encampment sign. And that's what we've been doing across the board. So I have been, and again, I have worked with city staff, TSS staff, and even Deputy Mayor McKelvey when she was in charge to actually secure 50 beds for people from Toronto Centre. And so Toronto Centre, more specifically Allen Gardens, has been given priority when it comes to actually getting people indoors. So that's me and my team working very hard to try to keep our parks safe. I also mentioned the downtown East Action Plan. I really took the time to explain this, in that we have almost doubled the resource for that initiative. I've been very hands-on in making sure that we have the staff. We have 2 full-time staff and a manager for the downtown East Action Plan in the reset, specifically for our ward. All right, and having a third party that we can go to, that we're paying a lot of money for, to help clean our alleyways and our parks. So again, you will see a significant change as of April 1st in the new budget of the city, because that's when the reset starts. I agree that we have historically we've had 62% of social services here in Toronto Centre, and I've said to my colleagues, and to the mayor that we need to actually spread those services across the city. It's not fair that all these services are in one location in the city. It's not fair to the residents who live here. It's not fair to the people that need the support as well. People, historically, based on my expertise in the subject, people, heal and get better in the neighborhoods that they live, where they're around friends and family. Displacing them to come down here into the core is not the way to do that. Okay.
Okay. My name is Doug Dance. I'm from 321 Sherbourne, so I'm adjacent to Allen Gardens. So let's go back to Allen Gardens. I volunteer with Friends of Allen Gardens, an organization that has been thrown into turmoil because of COVID and inflation and a lot of other things, plus the tent circumstance. The issues around the tenting isn't so much that you haven't moving people out. People have come in and they've got accommodation and everything's fine. There are probably 3 very large compounds within the park that seem to draw people. If they're finding or trying to find a facility to place all the stuff they have in those tents, I don't think you're going to find any place. So maybe they would be there for a long time. I don't know. One of them we understand on the street is sort of drug dealing, which is something that the city knows And I've asked the police services not to interfere, to keep things, whatever. The First Nations Sacred Fire Complex is also developing into the 10 complex as well. It's expanding its perimeters. There are 3 TVs now. The main concern with them and the larger unit complexes is the music that's played, sometimes all hours of the day, all hours of the night. 18311 is useless directing ourselves because we've got a call back from them 2 to 3 days later. Is everything fine? Well, the issue was when I called them. Now, the music is played at night. I talked to some of the athletics people, the security people in the area at the park. Their position is that, well, the music can play until 10:30 at night. People in Toronto are like music. I mean, the whole complex of that park has changed drastically from whatever it was before. So we'll have music and ranting on the microphones from the tents when they broadcast early morning, 3 o'clock. And you can call them, projects, they will then now call 311, and that'll usually take care of the problem. But is this something that's going to go on now until, as you mentioned, April 25? The other thing with the park is the damage to the trees. 2 of the 3 redwoods that are at the north corner of the Indigenous compound, large branches have not come back, did not leave again this year. And it's because of the traffic in the park. 311 vehicles, pickups, every vehicle seems to have a single object. They drive all around. They've been since bringing in granite blocks to make it keep the trucks on the pathways, but they've sheared up the turf. And they would also drive close enough to this complex of 3 trees that they damaged the root base. And now they've added, because of the expansion of the Indigenous complex, these large, heavy, 300-pound granite blocks very close to the trucks, which is only going to be doing the same problem that the vehicles do. So, and the final thing, the County Garden says you've been building an administration building and a washroom facility for over 3 years. And it's still not open. And I'm not sure whether it's going to be open, or really you're concerned how it's going to be used, or you're going to wait until you can clean out the park or something. But it's what people would be advised, because we're volunteering in the conservatory, that people need to use washroom or everything, and we have suggested that we recommend that they go to Harvey's at Jarvis and Joy Fest to use their washroom. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I agree with that.
Thanks, thank you. So I've been told that I have a lot of city staff here and I should call on them rather than answering every question myself. So we have parks here and we have a variety of city departments. John is here from, as well. Do you want to touch on any of this question? Tell me video. I thought the washrooms in the park was open because I've actually used it.
Not in the public.
Go ahead, John.
Hey everybody, my name is John Francisco. I'm the manager of the encampment office. I know we met this time last year. There's been a lot of changes, more particularly in Allen Gardens. Around this time last year, or actually in August last year, we had 104 structures at that location. And since then, we've changed our approach in terms of tackling the issue of encampments and demonstrating the use of housing and shelter. So since then, at Allen Gardens, we've successfully housed 98 clients from the park and sheltered 433 people. Doing this is helping greatly reduce the number of encampments in the park and prevent further growth in the park. Since then, we've seen a gradual decrease. Today, we currently have 18 encampments in the park. There are 4 structures attached to a sacred fire. And we do have the most resources compared to any other park in the city located out in Gardens. I know a lot of folks here have seen the corporate security team there. There's two vehicles in the park right now. There's a community safety teams. These are folks you see in high-vis vests. They help with paraphernalia and sharps pickup in the evening and overnight hours. In addition to that, we've also heard many complaints about the music in the park. I'd like to verify when it comes to encampments, our corporate security team in the park are informing people if their music is playing after 10:30 to lower the music or turn it off. We have informed the Logics team to follow up with my team in the morning so that we can have MLS municipal licensing standards, make a visit with my team and educate the person for the next evening. Since we've implemented this, we haven't had any complaints from the community regarding encampment noise. Now I know there's sacred fire and noise attached to that, and that's something we are working with the Indigenous Affairs Office because it is culturally sensitive. I know there's a lot of discussion and complaints around the type of music coming from that area, but that's not my specialty. When it comes to encampments, we are doing our best to address all the complaints attached to it and making sure we are doing everything to reduce this location, hopefully to zero. In comparison to the rest of the city, encampments have grown quite a bit. But I would say, even though I'm on the opposite side of the fence, as Councillor Moise, this location is the only location in the city that has seen a reduction of encampments. And regarding anybody new to the park, these folks are not new or have not been seen at Allen Gardens and are folks new to the park. My team is there every day, making sure they're educating folks that we are not allowing new encampments in the park. And the clients soon become aware that we'll be offering them a shelter space before asking them to leave. So although you do see maybe from time to time, it go up to 20 encampments over the course of the weekend, by Friday, we typically have it back down to at least 14 and sometimes even more. Last winter, weather was not on our side. It did prevent folks from wanting to go indoors because of the mild weather. In addition to that, there have been changes in our shelter system. So we have been seeing far less shelter availability in the city. And because of that, it's greatly reduced our ability to conduct operations citywide. Regardless, we do prioritize this location, as the councillor says, with whatever shelter space we have available, to balance out Allen Gardens and to help reduce other locations like Clarence Square, Bellevue Square, Dublin Park, Bellevue Square, Moss Park, St. James Park, and on and on. Among every other park in the city, I can guarantee you that Allen Gardens is our main priority, and we're looking to reduce this again to zero before we move our resources elsewhere.
You have the drug issue that you mentioned?
Sorry, you said again?
You have the drug issue that you mentioned?
The drug issue,
Yeah.
the park, maybe MLS could respond to that as well. Toronto, please.
That should be Toronto, sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and you just have to. It's Park, sir. Park, sir. Sorry. You can speak to.
Hi, I'm Esther Andrea. I'm the manager of the Parks Ambassador Program Unit, so I have 3 crews of staff that are at Allen Gardens Parks and other parks across the city. So we've got our Parks Ambassadors that go out, so when you let us know of an encampment in a park or an overnight sleeper, our Parks Ambassadors go out, try to connect with that person, and we'll often make a first point referral to the street outreach services. And then we've got our Parks Encampment cleanup crew. So these are a specially trained group of staff that feel comfortable working with folks, and they will clean and connect with the people and get people to voluntarily give out unwanted items. They hand out garbage bags, they arrange drop-off zones in the park where they can clean up. And we clean up when somebody goes inside and they take the belongings that they want and then they leave behind the items that they're no longer interested. So we have this dedicated group of staff. The final task that this team does is that when somebody agrees to go inside, sometimes shelters or housing locations may have a bag limit, and our staff will work with the folks there through the encampment office to bag up or box up items that they want to put into storage And we'll hold them in secure storage for people for about 6 months or so that when they do move into permanent housing, they can request their items and we'll bring them to them. And this way, we're trying to remove barriers and allow people to accept offers to come inside and for shelter. And then finally, we've got our DTE parks crew that focuses on the parks within the DTE catchment area. Like the councillor mentioned, they're going through the parks looking for the hazards, the needles, the drug debris, removing graffiti, etc. And that team of staff works 7 days a week. Over the year, we have 3 crews for most of the season. As we go down to, the fall and the earlier, darker days, then we've cut back to 2 crews, but we have solid coverage. And so our team works hand in hand with the encampment office, and we try to respond and do our best. And we complement the services that the local parks team provides. So at Allen Gardens, it's unique, and it's the team under the manager of horticulture and greenhouses that actually takes care of the grounds at Allen Gardens, but all the other parks in Ward 13 are under Andrea Chow, who's our general supervisor, and Margaret Best is your local park supervisor for Ward 13, are under their purview. And they'll have a general services crew. They'll have a grass cutting crew. They'll have a horticultural team of gardeners going out, etc. So all together, we're trying to work, to provide support and to ensure that the parks are as safe and as clean as possible.
Okay, and I think regarding the noise, MLS can maybe comment on that. I was also informed that when the townhouse opened later on this year, the washroom will also open as well.
Hi there. So my name's Yuri. I'm the acting supervisor for the Central District Noise team. In question, in regards to noise coming from a park, that actually falls under the jurisdiction of our parks departments.
We just heard that 25% of your staff was gone at like 6 hours a day. The auditor's report just came out today about how much you guys are not taking care of.
So that's not my staff, I'm noise enforcement. That has nothing to do with
It's broken.
Okay, so I'm going to stick to the noise question in regards to that. So I think between noise and amplified music, there are decibel thresholds set within the city. Theoretically, anybody can play music 24/7 as long as it's within those decibel thresholds. When it comes to music from a park, that's separate from us. Our supervisor Ryan, who's not here today, will be able to address that better than I can as to how they handle parks and playing amplified music. But unfortunately, that falls under my scope. Outside that's cool, unfortunately. However, if there is something amplified music, by all means, come talk to me afterwards. We can have a further chat.
Okay, thank you. So, is Henry here? We can come back. Where is my
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me online? Folks can hear me. My name is Walid Kodali. I'm with the Moss Park Coalition. And I want to speak to an item that's going to be coming to City Council this week, specifically related to 214 and 230 Sherbourne. So for some context, I just want to let folks know that this property was purchased between 1986 to 1996 for $865,000. It was boarded up in 2008. It displaced 60 to 80 residents. Kingset Capital, which has hired lobbyists to meet with members of council almost 39 times, purchased the properties in 2022, $53 million, and applied to build a luxury condo. What I would like our City Council to respond to is a 2019 council motion called for affordable, supportive housing, but it disappeared from recent plans. And specifically, the report references that in March 2018, City Council requested the Director, Affordable Housing Office from the Housing Secretariat in consultation with the Real Estate Services Division, which is now called the Corporate Real Estate Management, to conduct preliminary due diligence for the potential acquisition, or expropriation of the privately owned properties at 214 to 230 Sherbourne Street. The properties are located on the west side of Sherbourne Street, south of Dundas Street, east in Ward 13, and are roughly 100 meters southwest of DCAC's Dan Harrison Community Complex. The property consists of 6 vacant lots on Sherbourne Street and 1 vacant 2.5-story designated heritage property at 230 Sherbourne Street. So in July of 2018, City Council requested the Director of Affordable Housing Office and the Director of the Real Estate Service to make a conditional offer to purchase the properties at 214 to 230 Sherbourne Street in the event that they became available for sale. Staff were directed to make the conditional purchase offer with the intent that the properties be dedicated to future affordable housing development. The properties have not been made available for sale in the interim. So my question to the council is, when this motion comes to council this week, will you vote against the staff recommendation to build luxury condos at 214 and 230 Sherbourne, and instead commit to building social housing, affordable housing? We know we have a crisis in our community, we know we have a housing crisis, so we want your commitment that at this council meeting, you will vote against luxury condos and in favor of social housing. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I want to start off by saying that I live in this community for the last 30 years. And I know a lot of people who live here. I also like to believe that I'm an honest person and I speak the truth. There's no benefit for me to bullshit, right? Why? That property at 214 and 230 Sherbourne Street belongs to KingSett. The city did compete to try to purchase the property and lost the bid. KingSett came to me about a year ago and said, "Councillor, we're interested in selling the property." I engaged our real estate team to go and negotiate with KingSett to purchase the site. KingSett wanted X amount for it. The city said, "We're not in the business to make developers more rich than they are already. We are responsible for the public purse. I cannot just give your money away. I'm a taxpayer. I've been working since I was 16 years old. I've owned a property in this city since I was 22. I paid my dues. And so has everyone here at Sherbourne. So, yes, you're right. But again, we have to be responsible for the public purse. So you were in committee last week. You heard what our lawyers said. And if, for those of you who haven't seen it, I encourage you to go and watch it on YouTube. And it was said more than once by our lawyers and by Crown that based on the way the zoning is for that property, the city cannot purchase it. In order for them to have the ability to continue to negotiate with KingSett, they have to rezone it. And then as people feel, they can go back and negotiate to purchase the site. Staff, again, I mentioned this earlier in my comments. Planning staff, city council do not direct our planning staff. The Planning Act is a provincial act. It's independent of council and our influence. Planning have stated in their report, in black and white for all of us to see, that they recommend that it be rezoned. The one time, the last 2 years I've been a councillor, I went against the planning's recommendation was the Phoenix site up on Sherbourne Street. You know, I think councillors and myself are all emotionally wrapped up in the Phoenix because growing up, we all went to the Phoenix. We don't want it to disappear. And we try to say to the developer, after you develop the site, can you make sure the Phoenix has a space in there? And they said, yeah. So we voted against it. It went to the OLT, and we couldn't get a planner, an independent planner, to go and defend the city. They said, your planner said it's okay, and therefore we will not go and speak against that. So we had to go back and negotiate with the developer on their terms. No fees. But hypothetically, if we were to actually get a private plan to take the case, our own city planner would then have to go understand and defend his recommendation, not my position. That's how the system works. So as it is now, city planner said to us, committee, we recommend that we rezone that site. And Kren and all lawyers said, if it's rezoned at the value that it is meant to be, then we can continue to negotiate with consent. So that's the facts. It's in black and white. Read the report, watch the council meeting.
How will you vote again?
Well, if you want, it can go two ways. It can go two ways. It can go two ways. I can vote against it, it goes to the OLT, and we will lose.
Good.
Or, and then, that's good. So when it goes to the OLT, we have to pay someone to go to the OLT. We have to pay King Cell when we lose. It's a lose-lose.
Why don't you fight the corrupt provincial system?
Why don't you go over to the province and fight for them? Why is the onus on me? I am not the MPP. I'm not a provincial government. This is the municipal government. You ask me to go and break the rules to get what you want, which means to break the law. And I'll be in jail, and then, that's okay, right? Well, that's what you asked me to do.
That is not what I said.
Well, that's what you implied.
No, that's not right either. You don't like the rules. We don't like the rules. Why can't we work together?
I don't make the rules. You want,
listening.
but-
Say, why don't we work together to change the rules? Because they're not helping us and they're not helping you.
they're not helping none of us, no.
Oh, then, it works for the.
Well, if there's a provincial election next year, I suggest you go there and perhaps try to work with MPPs you want elected and change the provincial system.
How will you vote? How will you vote? How will you vote?
Yes or no? What's your vote gonna be?
Simple question, yes or no? Yes or no, then we'll know.
Yes or no? I didn't hear the question.
Why don't you hire designers to be a part of the problem?
Okay, we can go to the OLT and lose, or we can set the parameters on our terms at council.
What are you
voting?
My job is to be objective and do what's in the best interest for all of Toronto.
So, what is that? Yes
How are
or
you
no?
voting?
And next question.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Answer the question.
That's it, simple, when it's over, you don't have to worry.
Like I mentioned, I did not say out loud. Yes, I will support staff's recommendation. It has to be a professional recommendation.
Yes.
So you're voting yes?
Voting yes. You're voting yes.
Next question. And I've taken the time to explain this the best as I can and how the system works. I don't make the system. I don't make the rules. These are provincial rules.
You answer the question.
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Thanks for hosting TOWNHALL. It's nice to get together and speak to you. I have a follow-up question from the first question just about parks and encampments. The city can remove individuals because of a lower court ruling. Have you looked at alternative solutions like what Hamilton did, where they limited down the number of encampments and the proximity of encampments to one another within a park? And then I think, I was just checking out their new policies, and it's something like maximum 5 encampments in a park and more than 50 meters between encampments, and they're having a 72-hour plus 4-day time limit for sort of removing non-compliance with that. So it's sort of a way around the now being lower court ruling as the city looked at an option like that.
Again, it's not only the local court ruling, but also the ombudsman report is 20 recommendations, right? In that we cannot remove people from encampment if we don't have somewhere to actually move them to.
Yes.
What we have looked into.
Sorry, can you not enforce, city bylaws? If it's more than X amount of encampments, you can't have an encampment here. It seems to work for Hamilton.
But where would these go?
The thing is provincial law and court rulings, supersede municipal bylaws, right? What I have tried to do though is try to have these mini homes that we've been talking about as a pilot project. And some of the councils are agreeing to actually pilot them in their roads across the city outside of the downtown core. I don't feel that Toronto Centre is the best place for that because we have a lot of density here. For example, we do have, I mentioned the Bond Place Hotel, right? We try to put people in, multiple units rather than just one standalone facility. So that's what we're trying to do. But again, it's been all hands on deck, trying to get people housed not only in the core, but across the city. Again, some of the spaces that John mentioned was not only in Toronto Centre. There's some in Scarborough, there's some in Etobicoke, there's in North York as well. So we've actually housed people outside of the core. It's a challenge for us because of the 500 refugees that come into the city every month.
And thanks for that response. I didn't want to cut you off there, but really short and sweet, I guess the answer is you haven't explored sort of some of the alternative solutions that other cities looked at.
Housing.
Agreed.
Yeah, we haven't taken that strategy.
So I actually just have one actual question, but I don't think it's addressed earlier than somebody here showed. The flow of illegal drugs in the community. Maybe there's enforcement going on, but I don't seem to see it. So maybe if there's a representative from somebody, like you could just go by any park in the neighborhood and watch for an hour and see drug dealers come and go. Like, it's not. I don't know if the police got blinders on or if there's no enforcement or maybe there's a representative who wants to. So I don't know what's going on.
Can I say the police can't stop the
Sergeant Henry, sir, he can come up and speak to this. But I want to say though that I work very closely with the police. There's been a lot of undercover activity in the core, especially in the Sherbourne area, because there's illegal shops in the area. So I do have to sit down with the superintendent every 3 weeks and get a full close-up report as to what has taken place and where and why. So I know that, again, a lot of it is not visible, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes. But I'll have Henry touch on some of these things.
I'll try to be brief because this isn't my meeting, and I could speak all night about drug policy changes in recent years and changes in recent years. Is it coming through now? Okay, sorry. So briefly, number one, approximately 3.5 years ago, the federal government sent a memo to all police services in Canada that said, it's going in and out, that said that the federal crown will not prosecute charges for possession of any illicit narcotic, no matter what the substance is. So previous to that, the only substance that would be considered one that would not be charged for was marijuana. That's now extended to any illicit narcotic. It doesn't matter what the narcotic is. So for all intents and purposes, from that point forward, there has been no ability, with a few exceptions. Those exceptions are you can't, for example, be using drugs in a school, in a primary school setting, that type of thing, right? That's prohibited, still under law. And also, if we arrest somebody for, just let me finish, please, sir, because I think people need to know this, because a lot of people don't, and you've asked the question, so I'm going to answer it. So we don't, if somebody's arrested for impaired driving by drug and there's drugs in the vehicle, we can charge for possession of a narcotic in that circumstance. Any other circumstance, including people just using drugs in a park or on a street corner, is perfectly permissible. Now, I say that was a memo that was sent to all police services in Canada. That has now been followed up by an actual change in the statute, federal statute that regulates drugs. The Controlled Drugs and Substances Act was changed last year. So it makes it virtually impossible, except under those circumstances that I mentioned, the Crown will not proceed on any possession charges. Now, what I get from a lot of people, and this is something that everybody needs to understand, unless you're an expert on drugs, just because you see somebody go and hand somebody drugs like this, does not necessarily mean that that person can be charged with trafficking a narcotic. There are very, very specific regulations around the charges for trafficking in a narcotic, and the bar is very high. The evidence that's required in order to be able to arrest and charge for trafficking in a substance is very high. It takes a lot of police man-hours to lay that charge successfully and get a successful prosecution. I'm not saying we don't do it, we do. We just finished doing a project just recently with my office where we took out a whole bunch of drug dealers. So we do it, but it's very time consuming, it's very labor intensive, it takes a lot of effort. But don't just assume, because what I get from complaints a lot of times, people saying, no, people are using drugs on this property or whatever. And then I go and I look at it and I make ops there, and it's people using. And as I've said, use of narcotics, I'm afraid there is no charge for use of narcotics. There never has been. It's always been possession of a narcotic. And that charge is no longer available to the police to use. Further, pursuant to that memo to the Crowns, the federal Crowns and the police services, and pursuant to the changes in the statute. So that only leaves us with the option. I mean, and frankly, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in some circumstances, because if you're drinking in a park right now, if I found you drinking in a park, I could go up, investigate you, and I could write you a ticket for drinking in a park, and I could ask you to leave. If the person sitting next to you in that park is shooting up heroin, I can't do anything about that. There is actually no legal mechanism in place right now for me to do anything about that. That's just the reality that we're dealing with. So I recognize that that's very, very frustrating for almost everybody in this room. It is equally frustrating for the police. So we work within the laws that we have. We do charge for trafficking, possession for the purpose of trafficking. I can show you. It's one of the most frequent charges in my office in particular, happens a lot. But even when we do that, you have to know that that person's going to make bail probably the same day and be out doing the same thing later on this afternoon. Often before I'm done my shift, my guys will have arrested somebody, they will have gone to court for trafficking in a narcotic, and I'll see them when I'm driving on my way home from work, right? And if we take that person out, It's a lucrative market right now. Somebody else is going to come in and take their place the next day if they're in jail. So it is part of the solution. There are, as probably some people in this room know, especially the councillor, there are 4 pillars to good drug policy. Only one of them is enforcement. We have to have them all. Prevention, harm reduction, right? All these pillars are, it's a combination of all of these things that need to be worked on together. But to say that we're not doing it, we are doing it. But so everybody knows, possession, somebody using on a street corner in a park, not going to do anything about that because frankly, that's completely legal.
But I wasn't asking about the possession, I was asking about the and also, okay, yeah, when you're doing these things, I want to ask you to start someone's favorite.
Sir, we're here, someone specifically saying that it's very well known that in Allen Gardens, that they are, it's trafficking, and we were just wondering, has anything been done about that? That's all.
This is probably one of the only jurisdictions in the entire world where a search warrant has been conducted on a tent. So, and I'm going to tell you that we have done that multiple times, including in Allen Gardens, because it's considered to be that individual's home, and we've set the precedent, unfortunately. But we have done that numerous times. It's been done in Allen Gardens numerous times. So to answer the question, yes, I'm well aware that there's drug dealing in Allen Gardens. I'm well aware that there's drug dealing in Moss Park. I'm well aware that there's drug dealing in Barber Hall Park, outside the sanctuary, on the corner of Pembroke and Dundas, and you get probably half a dozen other intersections I could label right off the top of my head. I'm well aware of it. We have been doing things. There are limits to the amount of time that we can spend working on strictly drug trafficking. And as I said, it may not get the maximum effect that you're also looking for, but we do that work. It is part of our core work that we do in my office. It is being done. So.
Can I say something real quick? I don't think locking people up.
Again, if you want to speak to Sherbourne number, one of the my staff. But again, it's a bigger problem too, right? If we're looking at the low-hanging fruit, I think we need to look at the bigger picture as to how drugs get into the country and into the province, and mechanisms to actually prevent that from happening. Those who are using, and I do try, and it's easy to do that, but not look at the individual user themselves, because they're the ones that are most vulnerable among us, right? And we need to make sure that addictions is healthcare, right? Mental health is healthcare. And we need the province to come on board to help us with that. As a result of this, the province neglecting those responsibilities, because those people are our neighbors and our citizens, and that they're in our park and our alleyways. So as a city, we have no choice but to actually step in where the province has failed, right? We spent $1.7 billion a year on housing in the city of Toronto. That's quite significant. We're the largest landlord in the country for TCHC at our farms. We continue to invest. I'm sure in the next 5 years it will be $2 billion. So we really are doing the best we can as a municipal government, but we cannot do it all on our own. Right? It's important to say that. Mike, sorry. We have people on the line that needs to hear you, so this is why we give you a mic. Stand. Oh, sorry. Are you here? What number are you? Okay, we're fine. Go ahead.
Hi, so I'm just going to say that I have one comment, and then I have a two-part question. Just to reason on. First of all, I'm Irene. I'm a member of the coalition No Dumb Evictions that is against profit-driven dumb evictions and wants community-led development. Councillor Moise briefly talked about dumb evictions and the compensation package. I just want to let people know that $50,000 looks like a lot, and when you actually do the math with all of the fine print, and I know because I've done it because I'm getting dumb evicted, it's it's actually quite a bit less. And there's not enough resources to help people. So even though there's been some progress, it's not enough still. So I would just invite anybody here who is going through a den eviction, who is worried that they might be den evicted, or who knows someone who's getting den evicted, please come and talk to me. I would be happy to speak to you about the process and resources. My two-part question for you, Councillor Moise, is so I see that you spoke about building housing, but we know that as we've heard here about people who are in parks, the encampments, and I absolutely agree that nobody should be removed unless they can be provided safe housing. You mentioned that you and the city are working to build a lot of housing. Just based on the knowledge that we've gathered, most of it is unaffordable housing that's built by for-profit developers. Yeah. So I'm wondering what the city's solution is towards building more affordable housing to get people housed. You can specify that type of housing in the plan. And then the second part of my question, which is related to the site at 214 Sherbourne, is that in the 2019 report that was mentioned, it said that the city staff recommended the acquisition or expropriation of the site to build deeply affordable social housing to help the people in the community, to get them housed, to get them off the street, and to help them finally get the help that they need. In all of the talks that we have heard, we haven't really been hearing about the possibility of expropriation. So what is the city's stance on that, especially since when it comes to the Kingston Capital, and I know this because I'm facing this with my building, their plan is to purchase a piece of land, to rezone it, to increase the value of the land, and then resell it at a profit, and in no way actually participating in building housing. So I understand that it is city staff's recommendation to move forward with the rezoning before potentially acquiring, but I don't understand why staff would recommend to increase the value of the land before city would buy it. It just kind of sounds like the city's gonna give more money to develop it. So I know I said a lot of points, and I would really appreciate some clarification.
I'll start with the last question and to the first question. So why haven't we expropriated the land, 214, 230 Sherbourne? You have to remember that Kingston bought the property many moons ago, and I think it was last year before, with the Ontario line coming into place, that most of our ward is a transit-oriented community, which means that density is allowed around the Ontario line. For example, there's going to be a stop at Sherbourne and Queen. So based on the province's law, their density is allowed. And that's why Kingston is coming back and saying we want the density, because the province has said to them that's what is expected. So based on the value, the current value of the land, the cost has gone up. So it's not just to expropriate the land and say that we're going to take it from you. It's not that simple. The city would have to give the developer the cost of the land at its current value. So that it's important to note the difference. And in regards to building affordable housing, we have the housing secretary. Is anyone here from housing? No. We have the housing secretary who is going out and working with our partners to build more affordable housing throughout the city. I know for the mayor, that's a priority for her, and we're working diligently to create tens of thousands of more housing, affordable housing units. Again, RGI, people always ask about RGI, I'm surprised they don't ask about RGI right now, but RGI is the province, the feds who actually subsidize rent here to income. The city cannot afford that. You know, if you had to calculate it, it's $8,000 a year per household when it comes to RGI. We'd rather put that money in housing rather than put it in individuals' pockets for, you know, to bring down the rent. I also mentioned that in some instances, because of the 4% CBC benefits, I've been working with developers as to how that money should be spent. And just recently, for example, last year and a half, I've been working with Fitzrovia at 260 King Street East to actually get more value from the city. So we just actually negotiated 60 affordable units for a 99-year term. It took us a year and a half to negotiate this for the city. And so that's one of the things that I continue to do when it comes to providing more affordable housing across the city. I also think it's important to have, and again, I'm not a big fan of condos, but I actually think there should be more rentals as well. I meet with the TMU president as recently as this morning, and then with the president of Sherbourne College and other community leaders. And they say to me, you know, listen, we cannot get our nurses and our professors and our staff to come and work in our facility because there's no housing down here in Toronto Centre. So they go elsewhere. And they don't want to buy a condo. They rather just rent. And this is why I support more affordable, more rental units in our area. So again, I need to take a holistic approach when I talk about these things and deal with these things. I know some people are very tunnel vision, you know, but you know, for me, I try to see the bigger picture and to be all encompassing where I can be. Another question? Miguel.
Hey, good evening. Hello everybody, my name is Miguel. I'm from Regent Park. Questions, comments. My first question is, so we have heard a lot of information about this property, 230 Sherbourne Street. We need you to tell the rest of the residents why is it bad business to deal with Kinset Capital. We know that Kinset Capital doesn't act in good faith. Their business is to profit. And there have been several cases documented. I'm speaking to the seniors in this building, I want them in this room. How do you feel if you are evicted from the building and being a senior and knowing that they're out there's no affordable units? There's a long waiting list for DCAC, and we are not filling that RGI stock. We need to have more RGI. So I want you to consider, Chris, that the willing of the community is for you to be the leader as city council. We're not asking you to break the law. We don't want you to go to jail. But this is the time we need to stand up to that for his conservative voice and tell them, we have a promise, you know. If you're not gonna build housing housing, we're gonna take that property away from your hands and we're gonna do it because we have the money. We have money to hire more police officers this year. Why can it be impossible to expropriate this land? The question we have is for Parks and Forestry. I know they're here. I'm a big user of the aquatic center. Lately, the aquatic center is going through a lot of renovations, but we're addressing the staff shortage, and also the hot pool is always closed down or there is no staff to look after the hot pool. So I wonder if the actual forest can improve the service quality for the residents that use the common parties. Thank you.
Yes, I do want to say one thing about consent though. I don't want to leave this room today and think, we have to take them to the OLT. Because as of right now, there is actually a different site in the northeast corner of Church of Wellesley that is Kingshead property. And they wanted a lot of density on the development of that site. And the city has said no. And planning staff has actually recommend that we actually reject their development site, the density there, because it shadows the Barbara Hall Park and the East Memorial. And so staff recommended that not be approved, and I supported staff's recommendation to take them to the OLT. So I don't want people to think that, we don't take people to the OLT, because we do. And again, I rely heavily on my job, on the experts in the room. There's a lot of experts in the room today. And, I don't know everything. I cannot be expected to know everything. And this is why I depend on their expert advice. If there's someone here from Gatineau, Regent. Give a mic. Stand up.
On the other side.
Stand over there. Stand in.
I stand.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Andrea Chow. I'm the General Supervisor for Parks Operations for Ward 13. Regarding the Pam McConnell Aquatic Center, in another life, I did work in recreation, in aquatics especially. However, I'm no longer with that unit. We can take back your inquiry about the issues at that location, and I can have one of our recreation colleagues answer that question for you pertaining to the specifics around renovations and things like that. Currently, in speaking with my colleague from Capital, there are no planned renovations at that location. Anything that is happening there would be repairs and general maintenance of that facility. From my past experience there, I do know that it is a highly utilized facility, a lot of attendees, a lot of programs, well loved by the community for sure, and it is a very unique facility. So there have been some challenges, I do know, from the original construction dating back to, again, my past role. However, currently, in the last 10 months or so, I'm not aware of its current condition. So whoever had that question, if you'd like to reach out to me, I can make sure that we connect after the session and we can discuss further.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michael Rosenberg. I was trying to get some statistics about the causes of homelessness and why people are homeless. And they quoted me from a survey that really didn't answer the question. They quoted me from people who answered they're homeless because they don't have money. Well, that would be almost all of them. I actually do know one person who had a lot of money for some reason. He was homeless for a while. But mostly, that's not going to tell you whether, what I want to know is, did they ever ask in any of the surveys questions like whether it's because of a disability, whether mental or physical, or whether it's because they couldn't find work, or because they found work but it was part-time or wasn't enough money for the work. I'd like to be able to distinguish the reasons why people don't have money. I'm sure that almost all of the homeless people don't have money, but what is the reason? And so, do you know of any statistics that do answer that, or can you get them to add more questions to the surveys if they're still doing those surveys once a year, so that we don't just find out they don't have money, but we can distinguish between different reasons why people are here.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Michael.
Amazing question.
That's a loaded question. I don't have all the answers to. So staff has the answer to that. Okay, there's one staff that has the answer. While mine goes over there. I'll say though that I have seen some stats that I think 51% of people who are homeless are Black people, the others are Indigenous people, 2 are self-acute people are homeless. That's the majority of those who are homeless. And those are, there are various reasons, addictions and mental health as well. It's all encompassing, but go ahead.
And I'm going to find out about the economic category, and it doesn't keep those statistics, so when you get them to start having those questions.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your question. So we are definitely interested in understanding the cost of homelessness within condominium support services. So we do a 3D assessment that analyzes those.
All right, thanks. Yes, I don't have the statistics memorized on what categories people result in homelessness, but it's definitely something Toronto Shelter Support Service is interested in. So we do a street needs assessment every few years that looks at a number of factors, including what causes homelessness, where people are at, and what conditions people are facing as they experience homelessness. It is said to be reassessed this year, so on October 23rd, we're doing a count this year, and we will follow up with a survey to assess many of those questions you're asking, including what are the causes of homelessness. So once we do that assessment and get data from everyone, we would be looking to analyze that data and report back to City Council on what we found and work towards solutions based on that information. I think it is a very complex issue, and there are many factors beyond just financial, and you're absolutely correct to highlight that. We hope to learn more based on our upcoming street assessment, but I encourage you all to go online, look at our previous 2021 street assessment that highlights what we found in previous surveys.
Should educate the mayor. I don't know if you can change those surveys recently, but in the past, they didn't tell you what the reason for people acting on you. If maybe you've got more recent ones that do, I certainly hope so, or else please add those more questions to the survey.
Yeah, I can speak with the appropriate manager to ensure those types of questions are included. Okay, thank you. We have time for one more question. Time flies. You have fun. Great.
Hello, my name is Jeanette, and I had a couple questions. One, I'll just begin with the questions first. So the first question is, you had said that there were 2 ways that you could handle the issues about 214 to 230 Sherbourne. Can you please elaborate on the second one, which was the one we didn't get much time to speak about? The other question I have is, if the city is not successful in stopping KingSat from using that site, I understand that their site is going to, their proposal is to have a 45-story condo there, and I have a copy of City Plan 1991, and it's called a document entitled Sun, Wind, and Pedestrian Comfort, a study of Toronto's central area. And I'll just quickly read you about Allen Gardens. It says, permit building up to a height of 12 meters on properties abutting the park and on properties across the street from the park, with the exception of Carlton Street, where the rules pertaining to sunlight access for streets may be applied. The allowable heights of buildings located at a distance of 300 meters from the park will follow a cutoff plane that does not permit shading of the park in excess of the shadow allowing already cast by the permitted height of buildings adjacent to the park. And then they had created this sort of fan shape. If you put a 45-degree building at that location, it's definitely going to shade Allen Gardens. And it is a place where, you know, it's one of our major parks in downtown Toronto. So having a 45-story building that close to it is going to be a shade issue. And then the other question I have is, I've been noticing that since we've had a fair number of rain issues, So, and then the third part is about the green issues. We've been having a lot of rain storms that have been pretty heavy rainstorms, and I'm noticing that there's a lot of storm drains that are clogged. And I'm wondering if maybe there could be a general advertising campaign by the City of Toronto, just ask people the residents to just go out and clear their storm drains, because a lot of them are clogged. In fact, the ones up the street here are clogged because of the construction. People up the street haven't put the filter cloth in, even though I contacted 311 about it a couple months ago. So yes, if you could first talk to us about that second option with 214 and 230, I appreciate it. Thanks.
You've asked a lot of questions. The storm drains, of course, the city goes and do their best to actually clear it, and ask the neighbors to clear as well. I know on my street, I actually go out myself and clear the storm drain, and I know my neighbors do as well. And I encourage more people to do that. I agree. We need to do. I'll take it back from staff. Maybe they could comment on the storm drain and what initiatives we're taking to do that. The park at First Mountain Gardens. Sorry, the building for First Mountain Gardens you mentioned. A few of them actually have gone to the OLT, and they wanted the OLT. So there is some shadows in the park as a result of that. And this predates me as well. And so there's precedence around that. So this, again, most people that go to the OLT, 90% of the time, the OLT rewards them. So I hear that. In regards to the 214, 230 Sherbourne, yes, I think the proposed height is 45 to 46 for the rezoning. But as I mentioned before, because of the transit-oriented area, so close to Queen and Sherbourne, the Bill 39 states that you could have density in those areas. So this is a provincial law, which provincial law supersedes municipal bylaws. And so that's one of the reasons why they were able to ask for a rezoning based on the current laws in the books. And as I mentioned, that our own planners have said, have supported the recommendation, right? That is independent of council. So it's incumbent upon me to take advice, the good advice of the professionals in the room. And I was told, and they said this at committee, if you listen to the tape, if it's rezoned, then CREM, our real estate branch of the city, can go and continue to negotiate with consent. I was in the room when it was said. I'm not sure if anyone actually heard it, but I heard it. And he said it in the mic. So I'm still hopeful that may happen. And I think it's our best opportunity to, if we're able to acquire it, that will be our path to do so. Your objective and my objective is the same, right? But I cannot just put my hands up and say, screw it all, let's just, go road. That's not a responsible thing for me to do as your city council. Right? As easy as it may be just to do it, just to say, maybe there'll be less chatter and less abuse of my social media, but that's not the way we govern the city. It's not the city I'm a part of, if that's what we're going to govern. Anyways, thank you so much for coming in this evening, to those here in the room. Thank you to those online. I appreciate you joining us.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all our social media platforms, and if you need more information, go to our website.